Hey gang, I got an offer for you today from LinkedIn. As business to business marketers, your needs are unique. B2B buying cycles are long and your customers face incredibly complex decisions. Isn't it time you had a marketing platform built specifically for you? LinkedIn ads empower marketers with solutions for you and your customers. LinkedIn ads allow you to build the right relationships, drive results, and reach your customers in a respectful environment. On LinkedIn, you have direct access to build relationships with decision makers. Of the 875 million users on the network, 180 million are senior level executives. 10 million are C-level executives. You will also be able to drive results with targeting and measuring with their tools built specifically for B2B. And best of all, they work. Audiences exposed to brand messages on LinkedIn are 6 times more likely to convert. LinkedIn ads also rank number 1 for security, community, and ad experience as part of the Business Insider's Digital Trust Study. Make B2B marketing everything it can be and get a $100 credit. It's a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. It's linkedin.com/MPN. Terms and conditions apply. Entrepreneurs Enigma is a podcast for the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. It's about the wins and the fails that we all face being entrepreneurs, and how we learn from adversity. Every week I talk to a different entrepreneur with a story to tell. I'm Seth Goldstein. Come with me on the journey. This is Entrepreneurs Enigma. Let's get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Entrepreneurs Enigma podcast. I'm Seth, as always. I'm here with Carolyn Kay of Vincita. Is that how I say it?
No.
I screwed that up. Vincita.
No, I know, right? And have you seen there's a new Hyundai advert? And I've even said that wrong because there's around England right now, there's this advertisement about how to pronounce the car manufacturer's brand name.
Oh,
And it's
really?
hilarious because everybody says it wrong. Everyone says
Okay.
Hyundai in the UK. I don't know how they say it in America.
Hyundai. How do you say Hyundai? That's weird.
Hyundai. And
Hyundai.
it's like,
It's Hyundai.
you've got to be able to do it exactly the right way. And
So how do you say your company name?
my company name is Vincita.
Vincita.
No.
Vincita.
I know, right? And everyone's wondering, as a business coach, Caroline, why have you called your company a name that nobody can pronounce? And it's like, well, because I'm in Italy and because it's an Italian word and they can pronounce it even better than I can.
That's what matters. And they say it properly and say it in such an Italian accent that it sounds beautiful. So there you go.
Exactly.
So we'll move along past that because you are also the chief bottle washer over at Positive Intelligence as well, which is you're a mental fitness trainer, which is awesome. You're also the executive producer and host of the Snippets of Genius podcast, which also airs on the Marketing Podcast Network, along with me. That's how we met. And you've been busy, to say the least. And you are a Brit who lives in Rome, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's right. All of the above. So it's been a whirlwind journey and it's been so great to connect with you via the Marketing Podcast Network. So I'm excited to be here on the show.
That's awesome. So where do you want to start? Who is Caroline? How did you get into marketing and branding and a mindset? Like, how is that? Tell me the story.
Oh, wow. Well, obviously, as with anything, there is not a straight line with these things.
Never is.
It's been the whole joy of a squiggly career. And the best part, I think, of my journey was not knowing what the hell I wanted to do for pretty much all of my life. And really going against the grain of, well, everyone says I'm good at that. So that's probably what I should do, right? And I don't know what you were like at school, but I wasn't nerdy. I was definitely more on the sporty side. But I was more of a right brain person where I was creative and I could come up with stuff and do stuff. But when you got me like hard maths and science, just forget it. No. That was not my bag.
That's me too. Yeah.
And so, everyone sort of said, well, do your art. You're good at that. You're creative. Follow the art. So, and I loved art. Genuinely, it was the only thing I would do without anyone kicking my ass to actually do it. And I loved it. But I always had the but. What am I going to do with that? I don't want to be a starving artist. That's not in my plan. And people did tell me, you could be one of the ones that make it. You could be the millionaire, Caroline. And I'm like, there you go. Yeah, I didn't quite believe it.
Exactly. So also, don't you have to die to become a millionaire in art? Isn't that
lose an ear or something like that?
Lose an ear or something like that? Have some mental illness, whatever, something like that?
Yeah. So didn't really feel like that was my path. And because I didn't believe it, and that's such a big part And that's going to come back around as we talk about mindset. Because if you don't believe it, you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to get there. That's a really big thing. And the other thing I was good at was talking to people like we are now. But actually what I loved was sitting down with people and saying, yeah, okay, what's your problem? What's going on? What we're trying to do? And coming up with ideas and like challenging concepts and beliefs and like, how far do you think we could take this? How big can we go? And that's when I really found my sweet spot and went, okay, this is what I want to do. And so that's when I, because I'm from Yorkshire, up in the north of England.
Nice and cold.
So, it's cold. It's not as cold as Scotland, but it's definitely cold. And I moved down to London. So that was crazy at the time, moving to the big smoke. Wow, that's what we call it in the UK.
Big smoke.
So I popped down there and I started working with big creative agencies, doing amazing advertising and marketing campaigns, launching products, putting new things into the market. And I loved it. It was a brilliant, a fantastic job because I would work with startups initially. I mean, I was part of an innovation team. There's only 4 of us in the office. And I was the creative one. And there was another guy called Charles in the office, and he was absolute legend. And Charles was definitely the brainy one. So Charles got all the complicated projects where there's a lot of global logistics and infrastructure. And I got the projects where it's like, okay, we need some wow factor. Okay, give that one to Caroline. She'll come up with some ideas for that.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That's how
know your strengths. We're going to take a quick break, hear from our sponsors, and get right back to the show.
We know you listen to Marketing Podcast Network shows like this one because you are smart, discerning, and have impeccable taste. We've been brainstorming ways to reward you for listening and have something. MPN is a proud sponsor of the Creator Economy Expo 2023. That means you get a discount. This event is for content creators and entrepreneurs interested in building and growing their content-first businesses. Join over 500 bloggers, podcasters, authors, newsletter writers, speakers, coaches, consultants, and freelancers at the learning and networking event for content creators. Plan to attend May 1st through the 3rd in Cleveland, Ohio, and just for listening to the Marketing Podcast Network, you get $100 off your ticket. Go to cex.events to register. Use the coupon code MPN100. That's cex.events. Just type that into your browser, the whole thing, cex.events. The code MPN100. Creator Economy Expo, Cleveland, May 1st through the 3rd. See you there.
That's it. That's a really big part of all of it.
Yeah.
And then fast forward, I did some great work. I worked with some amazing people. I had a real kind of London lifestyle, really fast paced, really kind of crazy. Living the dream. And then I just thought, wow, I'm really tired.
That can happen, yeah.
Tired, and I don't think you should be in your early 30s and this tired.
Yeah.
I did, everyone talks about it now. Everyone knows this thing called burnout. But at the time, I didn't know what it was. I just thought, I like my job. I love my job. It's good, right? But then I've got to the top of my career and I'm kind of wondering, is this it? Is this what we do? Like, we get to the top, we fly around the world, we go to lots of meetings, we come home, we're exhausted, we go back into the office, we're still exhausted. And that's where I got to. And it was just this feeling that there's got to be more to this, right? There's got to be more to life. And I want to have that feeling, that I've read about and dreamt about and watched movies about. And massive romantic, if you hadn't already figured that out. But I'm like, come on, give me the romance. And so, I found myself trekking off to Rome, the most romantic place in the whole world, just for a little jaunt, see what's going on over there. And 3 weeks turned into 3 months, and then 3 months turned into 3 years, and now we're 5 years in. I'm still here.
Italy's a great place. Nothing quite like Italy. They're characters, to say the least.
Oh, definitely characters.
Oh, yeah, it's fun though.
That probably took me into my step of actually, for the first time in my life, just sitting down and thinking, okay, what do I actually really want out of life? Rather than what's the big job that I should go get and go after? Because I'd always been that kind of high achiever. I really want to have the big job, and I want to have the big house, and I want the nice car, and I want all that good stuff. Yeah. And then when I got all of that, I went, oh, so where's the happiness bit? Where's the bit of really feeling fulfilled and like jumping out of bed in the morning to go do my job? And so I really wanted that. And so I figured the problem at the time was I didn't like having a boss.
Oh, yeah, it's a big one.
But it wasn't true. Actually, the boss wasn't the problem. I think now as an entrepreneur, and anyone listening on this show who's an entrepreneur knows that you are the worst boss you will ever have.
Oh my God,
you will drive yourself harder. Beat yourself up more.
Or you just drive yourself nuts because you're not as efficient as the boss that you once knew. Exactly. So
Yeah, a boss would have a clear idea of what you were doing right and doing wrong, whereas you have no idea. You're just kind of like in this world of craziness, doing all the things, going down a million rabbit holes.
Oh, but it's the best part about it too. So
Yeah.
that's actually a good question. So you left. Well, actually, so you left the corporate world. You went off to Rome, and then you started the podcast back in 2019. So pre-pandemic. So it's been 3 years doing this. 3 years and 5 months according to LinkedIn. There you go. Doing this podcast. And you started up, I'm not even going to say the name of the company again, but you started your company up in 2019 around the same time. Well, you did the company first, then you did you did your podcast a few months later. But you also said something about when we talked prior that you had talked to a bunch of people in Rome, and they're like, you would be great at this mindset stuff, at helping people kind of get a handle on their brain, which I think is kind of really neat. Because, as entrepreneurs, we have enough trouble getting our handle on our own brain, but for some reason, we're able to help other people with their brains. It's very bizarre.
Oh, well, actually, I was kind of the reverse. I needed to figure out what was going on in my brain and why I had become the worst boss in the world to myself. And the whole reason I became an entrepreneur was to get away from the terrible bosses.
Yeah.
And none of them were terrible. This is the thing. It was all just the way I perceived everything, the way I took on criticism or constructive criticism, or, it felt like either I was performing or I was failing, and I couldn't be a failure. And that would be the worst thing ever. And actually, a lot of this comes from, now I know, after going into a lot of deep work into why am I living this sort of life on repeat? I got rid of the boss. I should be totally there now, right? I should be happy. This should be it. And I thought, okay, maybe the problem starts with me. Maybe I need to figure out what is it that I'm doing to sabotage myself, because I want to be here and I'm only here. I want to be doing this. And for some reason, I'm massively avoiding that huge task project that I want to get deep into, and I'm not getting anywhere with it. I've got to figure this out. There's got to be a way to help me get on the path. And to kick off, you mentioned there that when I started the company, I very quickly started the podcast shortly after, a few months in. And that was really a marketing strategy, 100%. Total transparency. It was about, I want to get my name out there. I want to build authority. I want to speak to the greats. I want to know all the people that are already doing it, nailing it, got through all the hard times. And I want to hear about all their quick wins and then start using them.
Absolutely.
Bit of a spoiler alert that there is no quick win. It's actually really, really hard craft.
Oh, because because that's the thing. You never see, like, people are, that overnight success was 10 years in the making.
Exactly.
Everyone's like, it's not a quick turnaround. It just looks like that because you weren't in it.
That's it.
Exactly. So.
Yeah, that's just, you haven't looked at them for a few years and suddenly they pop up on your LinkedIn and they're like, whoa, look, they're kicking ass. They're doing everything.
Exactly. But they had a long slog. So absolutely. So
yeah, absolutely. They had a slog. I've found that starting the business, I'll rewind just a little bit because you touched on those people I met in Rome, and I do want to get to that, was before I figured out what I was going to do. I mean, first of all, I just had the idea I didn't want to have a boss. Then I was like, okay, so actually, what is it I'm going to do? And you talked about figuring out my strengths, figuring out, what value can I offer people? What can I share with the world? But before I could do that, I had to make sure I didn't run out of money.
That's kind of key.
That's kind of key. Yeah. And I was definitely running out of money while I was figuring out all these wonderful ideas, living the high life, going to lots of rooftops and drinking aperitivos and eating all the great food and all the things you have to do in Rome, obviously, right? And so one of the things you can do when you're a Brit in Italy and you really can't speak Italian well is you can go teach English, which is what everybody does. Okay. There is not anyone, I think, that doesn't come here and kick off with, well, just teach your mother tongue. That'll be good. But obviously I have perfectionist tendencies to a very high degree. And I was like, well, I can't go teach English. I've never done that. I don't know how to do that. So I went and took a teacher training course and I learned how to do it. And then I got a job at this school who also gave you extra training.
Ooh.
Anyway, I seemed to take to it like duck to water. Absolutely loved it. And I just thought, wow, this is really rewarding. I never really thought teaching would be my thing, and I absolutely loved it. And so because I loved it, I was doing pretty well and I was like making a good impression and I was enjoying my time with people. And they were all saying to me, oh, you really like this. Like, you seem to really like your job. And I found it kind of interesting because a few people are kind of down with life, kind of beaten up a bit with their work, but they could see I really was enjoying it and having fun. And partly knowing that this isn't for life. This is just This is just time that I'm
stopgap,
enjoying while I'm figuring stuff, right? And but anyway, we got the contract with this school at the Vatican.
Ooh, how fancy.
Very swish, right? So my office for a couple of years was the Vatican. Amazing.
Ooh. The difference you travel to a different country every day.
That's it. Had a little card, got me in, there we go. I'm in the club. And I was teaching English to the restorers and the photographers and the art workers and all the creative guys that are in there. And I absolutely loved hearing their stories, what they've been doing, how they got to this place. Because it's a pretty high profile job to get working inside of there.
I think so.
And when I spoke to them, they obviously enjoyed working with me, but they're all kind of got this little side hustle going on. They all had something in the works. So one of them, he was like, okay, Caroline, I want to get my articles published in UK journals. And can you help me do that? And how can I write my pitch to PR companies? I was like, absolutely. Come sit down with me. Let's talk about that. Yeah. And he was like, oh, well, actually, you might be able to help with my friend. She's the head of the arts and she's at one of the really capital cities in Italy. And she needs some help because she's launching a new product into market. And so she needs to make sure she's got her IP set, that she's doing her sales pages. Can you help her with that? Absolutely. Hand her over. Let's have a conversation. So suddenly they're introducing me to all these amazing superstar people who are just carving their own path, doing some amazing things. And I got to sit down and talk to them about, marketing, sales, strategy, how to present yourself, how to tell your story. And I was like, this is it. This is where everything just sort of slots into place. Ba-boom.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic.
That was
at the Vatican, no doubt. That's awesome.
Yeah, that also was massive cherry on the top.
That's fantastic. So then you're out and you're helping with people with mindset, you're doing all that. Here's a question for you. Since you're an entrepreneur through and through, what's the best thing about being an entrepreneur? Because we kind of talked about, how being your own boss, you're your own worst boss kind of thing. What's the best thing about being an entrepreneur?
I think the best part for me is the creative piece, because everything you do as an entrepreneur is creative. So, for example, social media, you got to think about, okay, what's your strategy? How are you going to present yourself? What is your audience going to like? Who are you targeting? And there's a lot of the strategy side of it, but most of it comes down to design, presentation, and coming up with ideas. And I actually love that because I've always felt I'm a creative person, but at the same time felt my biggest strengths were in the strategy side and the marketing and sales. But actually being able to do both, I think is wonderful. And you constantly out there, putting yourself out there in the world, challenging yourself daily. So when I was doing the podcast, whoa, that was some massive mindset shifts to go,
oh my God, yeah.
I can be an authority. I can go, talk to the most important people in the world and tell them to, hey, come on my show, let's have a chat. And,
exactly.
And then I can think about how to do a podcast artwork and all the other things that come with, developing a show. But everything's a creative process. And I think a lot of mindset work and working with amazing people to help me. I follow Seth Godin, absolutely love him. I think he's a rock star.
He's awesome.
And he's got this amazing, I highly recommend everyone to listen to this as well. He does the startup school, and he talks about the ship it idea. Like, you've just got to ship it. Like whatever your product is, whatever your service is, you just got to get it out there in the world. And you got to get past yourself with that it's got to be perfect, which I talked about my perfectionist tendencies before. And it's just know that wherever it's at right now, at this point in time, it's good enough. This is where you are. Get it out there.
That's fantastic. On the other side, what keeps you up at night as an entrepreneur?
What's the scary thing of being an entrepreneur? I mean,
doesn't have to be. It could all be shining tulips. I'm not sure if that's the saying or not.
I know what you mean. In the early days, I mean, I remember sleepless nights and just constant restless brain, just constantly like, okay, have I done that? Did I do that? Is this going to work? That's big question. Is this going to work? Nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody can tell you for 100% sure, yes or no, this is going to work, or this is the right idea, or you've nailed it in your first attempt. And the one thing you've got to get really good at in the beginning is really enjoying and embracing failure.
You have to.
Was massive for me. Being the perfectionist that's always achieved and always delivered and always done things on time, and not been okay with people telling me I've not done it right and I've not done it okay, is actually get past yourself, get out of your own way and just go, Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but you're definitely going to learn something from this, and you're going to be able to use that and make something even better the next time.
So what is the most important thing to carry with you all the time?
I want to say a better answer than my phone.
But your phone, but a lot of people, it is their phone. Like, your life is on your phone. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, probably my phone. And I think it would, because I love taking pictures. I think that's number one.
You're also in a fantastic place to take pictures. The Coliseum is just like right there.
Right there. And actually, because you become a creator when you're an entrepreneur, as I was talking about being creative, you need content, and you need good content, and you need to constantly be building it and creating it and searching for inspiration. That's all part of the process. With my phone, I'm always taking pictures, taking videos. I don't know when I'm going to use it. I don't know if I'll ever use it. Probably most of it will go in the trash, or I'll delete it. But I'm constantly doing it.
Photos. It's just in Google Photos. And you're like, that's a nice memory. Yeah.
The bigger thing is that the more you do something, the better you become. And if you look at my photography back in 2019, wow, shocking, terrible. I mean,
all crooked and stuff. Yeah.
It's all just awkward. Whereas now it's got a lot better and it's improved. And that's because I'm something that you're doing every day. And the more you do something, the more you'll improve. A great book that I love called The Slight Edge, which I recommend everybody reads. And this book is all about those small little things that you do every single day that compound over time and will deliver you the success that you want. And that is something that I think is really critical about being an entrepreneur, is not just to expect it overnight, not to expect everything to happen at once, which I completely did, but just to know that the small little things you do every day are going to get you there, and you will get there if you keep going.
I love that. That's a great place to end. So Caroline, where can people find you online? What's your biggest watering hole online?
You can find me over on my website, which is www.carolinek.co. That's KAY.co. Or over at Vinterta, so I'm going to spell that for the guys here now. It's www.vincita.co.uk. So come on over and have a look at my business, what I'm up to there. Everything on Snippets of Genius is on carolinek.co. All of my handles across social, Instagram and LinkedIn, you'll find me the most.
She's everywhere, folks. She's everywhere.
Caroline K. Co. So come and find me. I'd love to connect and hear what anyone's takeaway from this show was.
Awesome. So this has been so much fun. We'll have all the links in the show notes. That was a great show. Hey, if you're enjoying Entrepreneurs Enigma, please give us a review on the podcast directory of your choice. We're on all of them. And these reviews really help others find the show. Also, if you're getting value from the show and want to buy me a coffee, go to the show notes and click on the link to help me stay awake while I bring you more great episodes to your ears. That's in the show notes, and I look forward to the next episode. Take care, guys. Goldstein Media hopes you have enjoyed this episode. This podcast is one of the many great shows on the MPN Marketing Podcast Network.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Christopher Hines hosts a great podcast called Pod Central. Chris, tell us what these fine folks will get when they listen.
We help you launch, grow, or monetize your podcast. We even help those podcast business owners out there grow their agencies and get more clients. This is a place where you come to learn everything podcasting.
Wow. Where can people subscribe?
Search for the podcast wherever you listen to your shows, or find me on Twitter at Chris Podcasting, and I can send it to you directly.
Or go to marketingpodcasts.net. This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.